The impact of recessions on businesses. The global economic landscape is volatile and prone to downturns that can have significant impacts on businesses. Recessions, in particular, are a widespread and sustained contraction of economic activity marked by declines in the gross domestic product, GDP. The effects of recessions can be devastating for businesses of all sizes, leading to declines in sales and profits, job losses, reduced credit access, slow collections, and business bankruptcies. In this article, we will examine how recessions can impact businesses and offer tips on how they can minimize the negative effects of an economic downturn. Defining a recession. There are different definitions of a recession, but the most common one is 2 consecutive quarters of decline in the GDP. The National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, which dates recessions in the U.S., defines it as a significant decline in economic activity spread across the economy, lasting more than a few months. The severity and pervasiveness of the COVID-19 downturn in the spring of 2020 led the NBR to call it a recession, albeit one that officially lasted just 2 months. The impact of recessions on businesses. Businesses of all sizes face declines in sales and profits during a recession. Their efforts to cut costs may include layoffs and cuts in capital spending, marketing, and research. Recessions may curb credit access, slow collections, and spur business bankruptcies. Smaller businesses face many of the same recession risks as larger ones, but their lack of scale makes them more vulnerable and increases the risk of failure in a downturn. Recession impact on small businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of many economies, but they are particularly vulnerable to economic downturns like recessions. Defined expansively as those with fewer than 500 employees, they accounted for 43.5% of the U.S. GDP in 2014, though that was down from 48% in 1998. Those with fewer than 100 employees still accounted for 30% of U.S. wages and 35% of employment from 2012 through 2016. However, most small businesses are tiny. Nearly 40% had revenue below $100,000, and more than 70% generated sales below $500,000, according to Internal Revenue Service (IRS) statistics from 2013. Just 20% of the 29.6 million small businesses counted by the U.S. Census Bureau were employers. This lack of scale leaves the vast majority of small businesses with less of a financial cushion, market power, and leverage within their industry to weather the tough times the recession brings. Lenders know that. They are likely to be less enthusiastic about lending to a business without significant cash reserves and capital assets that can serve as collateral during periods of heightened uncertainty and business risk associated with recessions. Unlike publicly listed companies, small businesses typically can't raise funds by selling stock in a secondary offering or issuing bonds. In contrast with large employers in high-value industries, failing small businesses also can't typically lobby the government for help. As a result, small businesses are particularly vulnerable to spikes of Chapter 11 bankruptcies associated with past recessions. The exception was the COVID-19 recession, when pandemic relief measures widely available to employers of every size averted the expected wave of bankruptcies. How small businesses can minimize the impact of recessions. Given that small businesses are more vulnerable to the impact of recessions, it is crucial that they take steps to minimize the damage. Here are some tips that can help small businesses prepare for and survive an economic downturn. Diversify revenue streams. Small businesses should not rely solely on one product or service. Diversification can spread risk and reduce the impact of uncertainty. I apologize for any confusion earlier. Continuing with the topic of how recessions impact businesses, it's important to note that small businesses tend to fare worse than large ones in a recession because they're less able to withstand the economic shocks that come with it. This vulnerability stems from a variety of factors, including the lack of cash reserves and access to credit that can help cushion the blow during tough times. In addition to the difficulties small businesses face in obtaining financing during a recession, they also tend to have less bargaining power than larger companies when it comes to negotiating prices with suppliers and customers. This can make it harder for small businesses to cut costs during a recession and can put them at a competitive disadvantage compared to larger businesses. Small businesses also tend to have less diversified revenue streams than larger companies, which can leave them more vulnerable to economic shocks in specific industries or geographic regions. For example, a small business that relies heavily on tourism or events may suffer more during a recession than a large company with more diverse operations. Despite the many challenges small businesses face during a recession, there are steps they can take to increase their resilience and improve their chances of survival. One key strategy is to focus on building up cash reserves during good economic times, so that they have a financial cushion to fall back on when times get tough. Another important step is to diversify their revenue streams and expand into new markets, either geographically or by offering new products or services. This can help small businesses reduce their reliance on a single customer or industry and can provide a buffer against economic shocks in specific areas. Small businesses can also benefit from working with financial advisors and accountants who can help them navigate the complexities of the economic landscape during a recession. By developing a comprehensive financial plan that takes into account both short-term cash flow needs and long-term growth opportunities, small businesses can better position themselves for success in any economic environment. In conclusion, recessions can have a significant impact on businesses of all sizes, but small businesses tend to be particularly vulnerable due to their lack of cash reserves, access to credit, and bargaining power. Despite these challenges, there are steps small businesses can take to improve their resilience and increase their chances of survival during tough economic times. By focusing on building up cash reserves, diversifying their revenue streams, and working with financial professionals, small businesses can weather the storm and emerge stronger on the other side.